So I'm gonna be 100% honest here. The Fever can't afford to run it back. They can't. Um, they simply put do not have the funds to. Why does every time I go into roster just send up a freaking AI question? But they don't have the funds to put their team together again. So I'm going to guess what these players are going to cost. I'm going to tell you what it will cost for the Fever to run it back. Before we get on to it, if you guys are new to the channel, subscribe. We are trying to hit 57,750 subscribers by the end of the day. We are 46 off. So Kelsey Mitchell is not, I highly doubt Kelsey Mitchell is going.
The spreadsheet slammed down and everything changed in an instant. The room went silent because the Indiana Fever ownership just saw the numbers, and it hit them. This is not just tight finances, this is a full-blown financial disaster. There is no backup plan, no hidden money, no way out. The vision of keeping Caitlin Clark and this core together just collapsed under the weight of reality. This is not a tweak, this is not a small adjustment, this is a complete identity crisis unfolding in real time, and inside that front office panic is setting in because they now understand they may have to tear this thing apart before it ever truly had a chance to peak.
57,750 subscribers by the end of the day. We are 46 off. So, Kelsey Mitchell is not, I highly doubt Kelsey Mitchell is going to play for 1 cent less than the Supermax. And I have a feeling she is going to be used, the core designation is going to be used on Kelsey Mitchell to guarantee she stays, and it will be a Supermax for Kelsey Mitchell because there's one more year of the core designation. So, with that, we are looking at $1.4 million for Kelsey Mitchell's contract. Odyssey Sims is not going to be coming back. Shout out Odyssey Sims, 27 points in Game 5 of the semi-final.
Let me be real with you, this situation is worse than people want to admit. The Indiana Fever cannot afford to bring this roster back in 2026. All this talk about chemistry and building something special sounds great until you look at the numbers, because the numbers do not care about feelings. Right now the money is gone and ownership is staring at a brutal choice: keep the stars or build an actual team, because you cannot do both. Every dollar tied up in a veteran is one less dollar to support Caitlin Clark, and what is coming out behind the scenes is not optimism, it is chaos.
Her skill set clashes with Caitlin Clark, Leah Boston, and Kelsey Mitchell. If Caitlin Clark is going to be traded, which we know she's not going to be, but obviously in this weird hypothetical, someone's trying to sabotage the team, and they pull in Nico Harrison. Odyssey Sims would be great to have back. Odyssey Sims in the open market, based on how she did last year, is probably going to command. My guess is if I'm going to guess the median contract in the league is going to be about 450k. I would say she's going to command about 500-ish k. A little bit over the median, as will Ari McDonald. The problem with Ari McDonald is she has not been injured, or she has not been healthy at all in her career. I'm going to say they're not going to keep Odyssey Sims, but I'm also...
Everything starts with Kelsey Mitchell, and this is where the pressure explodes, because she is not taking a discount, not even a dollar. We are talking about a full Supermax commitment of around $14 million just to keep her in uniform, and the team knows they have to use the core designation to lock her in, but that move comes at a cost because it clamps down on the salary cap instantly. You are committing a massive portion of your budget before you even begin to build the rest of the roster, and now, people inside ownership are starting to question if this is the move that breaks everything.
To give money to injured players, it's very, very weird. Bree Hall won't be coming back, so let's just ignore her. Shea Petty won't be coming back. Natasha Howard. So, Natasha Howard is going to want a max contract. She's not going to deserve a max contract. Some dumb team is going to give her a max contract. My expectation is that somewhere Natasha Howard is going to make 900k. And I don't think people want the Indiana Fever to run it back with Natasha Howard, but I have a feeling they're going to run it back. They're going to try to run it back with Howard. I have this really bad feeling they're going to try to run it back with Howard. Then you've got Aaliyah Boston. Aaliyah Boston's contract is going to be, she's going to make the max.
But this is not just about the stars. The real tension is coming from the middle of the roster. Look at Odyssey Sims, who showed flashes of brilliance, dropping big performances when it mattered, but despite that she is likely gone not because she cannot play, but because she does not fit what Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston are building, and in this market her price is climbing toward $500,000, and ownership is looking at that number and saying no, because paying that kind of money for a player who might slow down your core development is not a risk they are willing to take.
100k. Caitlin Clark right now is going to be at 500k. So you're looking at then, so we've got one player here in Caitlin, 2 in Lexi, 3 in Sophie, 4 in Leah, 5 in Howard, 6 in Ari, 7 in Kelsey Mitchell. You now no longer have, there is now, for a 7 million salary cap, this is just, again, based on my expectations. You now have to fill out the entire team with vet minimum players or lower, and you can't afford your first round pick. To run it back.
Then you get into players like Ari McDonald, and this is where the reality gets uncomfortable because talent is not the issue. Availability is. Throughout her career, staying healthy has been a struggle, and the Fever cannot keep betting on uncertainty. Even if she performs when she plays, ownership is not eager to hand out $500,000 to someone who might not be on the court when it matters most. This is the kind of hard line decision teams hate to make, but they are done paying for potential that never shows up in the playoffs.
To run it back means the Fever literally, and that is by the way, undershooting what these players are going to go for. They're going to go for more money than this. I'm undershooting this. The remaining 5 players with Indiana Fever have to be vet minimums, which means that it doesn't matter who's that 10th pick is, they can't afford to keep them. Players on this team that will be vet minimums. KK Timpson is going to cost about $300,000. I think she's going to cost the minimum if you keep KK Timpson. We have seen that Sid Colson and Bree Turner are going to command more than the minimum. Why?
Now the situation with Natasha Howard might be the most volatile of all because there is real talk that she could push for a max deal, and even if her recent performance does not fully justify it, the fear is that another team will still pay her, forcing Indiana into a corner, either overpay or lose a critical defensive piece. Projections have her near $900,000, and ownership is already signaling they are not comfortable matching that, which sets up a standoff that could fracture the locker room and leave fans wondering who is going to anchor the defense.
Trade Kelsey. They might have to let Sophie or Lexi walk. And running it back is not even an option. Like, they might literally have to keep their first round pick. They might have to get rid of Kelsey Mitchell. Like, that is the extent of the financial issues, that they might actually have to get rid of Kelsey Mitchell to keep their first overall pick. With a lot of this team building, it becomes awkward. And then you take into account that Caitlin Clark's on a max next year. Like, you can't keep Kelsey Mitchell in 2027. And if you keep Kelsey Mitchell in 2027, someone did the maths and they're like...
And then there is Aaliyah Boston, the foundation of this team, and her payday is coming, and it is not optional. She is getting the max, and that means another $12 million gone instantly. Now combine that with Kelsey Mitchell, and suddenly you are nearing $3 million locked into just 2 players before you even think about depth, and that is where the fear kicks in, because this roster starts to look like a house of cards. One injury, one dip in performance, and everything collapses because there is no financial flexibility left. The pressure on Aaliyah Boston is about to reach another level entirely.
You do what the Phoenix Mercury did last year. Except you're not going to be able to sign a Sammy Wickham. Basically do what the Mercury did last year. And the Indiana Fever are I'm not going to say the worst scouting team, but are up there in the worst scouting teams. They scout like it's 2015 again. So them, the Aces, the Sky, they don't scout overseas. They don't look for these players like someone, like you even look at the Lynx, like they brought in Badian last year, who would have been fucking great for most teams. She just didn't want to come back after Eurobasket. There is a lot of talent overseas that you're going to have to look for, and the Fever aren't going to look for that. So what the Fever are going to end up doing is you're going to end up getting a bunch of below.
Now this is where everything spirals out of control, because when you start stacking the numbers across the full roster, the reality becomes impossible to ignore. Players like Sophie Cunningham are not taking discounts. She knows her value, and the market knows it too, which means you are easily looking at offers pushing towards $700,000, and even in a best-case scenario, you are still committing at least $500,000 just to keep her. And then you bring in Lexi Hull, who, as a restricted free agent, becomes even more unpredictable because one aggressive offer from another team could drive her price even higher, and just like that, 2 role players alone are threatening to eat up close to $1 million of cap space, and this is before you even deal with the biggest variable of all, Caitlin Clark, who right now sits at around $500,000, but everyone in the league understands that number is temporary because her real contract is coming, and when it hits, it changes everything, so you start adding it all up, 7 maybe 8 key players, and suddenly you slam into that $7 million salary cap wall with nothing left, no flexibility, no margin for error, no ability to fix mistakes, and now you are staring at a roster that is only half complete with 5 empty spots that have to be filled with minimum contracts or rookies, and it gets worse because you cannot even afford your own draft picks without pushing yourself over the edge, which leads to the most shocking possibility of all, the idea that you Might have to move Kelsey Mitchell just to stay financially alive. Think about that for a second. One of the best scorers in the league, potentially gone not because of performance but because of math, and inside the organization this has turned into a full-scale internal battle with one side arguing you keep your proven stars at all costs, and the other side saying the numbers make that impossible, and this is not just about 2026 anymore because once Caitlin Clark hits her true max deal in 2027 the situation gets even tighter to the point where even if your top 3 players agree to standard max contracts, the rest of the roster still ends up being minimum level talent, which means your stars are carrying everything every night with no support, and we have seen how that story ends. Teams' burnout depth gets exposed and championship hopes disappear, and that is exactly the path the Fever are trying to avoid, but right now they are heading straight toward it, and it is not just contracts making this worse, it is also how this team builds, because while other organizations are expanding globally and finding undervalued talent overseas, the Fever are stuck in outdated habits, focusing on the same domestic pool, missing out on cheaper, more efficient options, and ownership is starting to notice. They are questioning why other teams are finding impact players at lower costs, while Indiana keeps recycling familiar names at higher prices, and that frustration is boiling over because this is no longer just about money. It is about vision, it is about adaptability, and right now the Fever look like a team that is falling behind in both areas, and if nothing changes quickly, this is not just a roster problem, this becomes a long-term structural failure that could waste the prime years of Caitlin Clark and close a championship window before it ever truly opens.